Hi, everybody. My name is Margaret Pinard. You've landed on my page at Taste Life Twice, and welcome to BookTube. There we go. We're muted on the other monitor, so we're good to go. Also, sneak peek of another tech detail I just noticed. So I'm leveling up a little bit today and looking at another monitor for the chat. And I realized that when you're on your YouTube page and it's playing and you're looking at the live chat, there's a little 3-dot thing that you can look at the participants so you can see who's actually in the chat at any given moment. And that's pretty cool. So I just snuck over and saw who was there and not there. But we've got people who popped in to say hello, popped in early. Hey, Barrett. To recommend people hit that like button. So this is what it appears like on my screen, elbow cough, but I'm going to call that adapt because I think that's just more epic. Doctors Suzette Aloysia and Carl Avery Cooper over there. Always nice to see you. Maggie Ward was here to say hello. And let's see, I was thinking of going live early, but decided not. Anita popped in after her premiere that was all about story origin, which I'm definitely going to go back and watch when I'm not fluttering about trying to get things ready. Cool Gamer stopped in to say hello. Beth Ann stopped in to say hello. Berta's Bookish Adventures. Hello. Oh my goodness. Lovely to see you. So it is just 11 a.m., which means 7. So I guess it's early evening for you. Okay, so not too bad. Well, happy Friday, everybody. And this is our Friday Live. This week, it's being taken up by the pile of possibilities for May of the Moderns. And if you haven't heard me talk about this readathon yet, where have you been? This is a readathon that I started last year, and I'm expanding it, stretching it, retooling it a little bit for this year. It's going to be May all month long, and moderns refers to the first half of the 20th century, specifically 1901 to 1945. So we're just reading old books. I mean, how exciting can you get, right? Queen of books you've never heard of is one of my hashtags, but I mean, nerd queen also works. I will also respond to that. Beth Ann says, we'll likely need to take a load of junk to the dump soon, but I'll watch the rest later. Family chores. Get it while it's hot. Yes. So we're going to start with coming attractions. Just take a couple minutes, but before that, I thought I'd point out that I'm wearing special earrings for the occasion. These are Louis Sullivan architecture inspired. I bought these in Chicago, and he is all about the natural world inspiring architecture and design, and he was active, I think, in the 1890s, most active with the arts and crafts movement just following, and Art Deco just after that. So I love representing Louis Sullivan, someone about whom I would love to know much more, but I can't seem to find much material on him. So if you've got resources, let me know. But let's skip over to our coming attractions. If you've got questions about the readathon, feel free to pop it in the chat. And let's hear about what's coming up. So as you probably have already heard, we have a Patreon book club this Sunday, April 17th. So if you're in, that's your reminder. And if you're not, that's your invitation. We're reading Where the Dead Sit Talking, and I'm not very far into it, but I did just finish my other read. So this is all I'm reading till Sunday. It's by Brandon Hobson. It is a Native written book about Native issues, and it's Cherokee, a lot about the Forster system, and it's a very interesting style. So I'm looking forward to the chat about that, even though Beth Ann can't be there, but that's okay. Thank you for letting me know. I've also got a new tier on Patreon. If you're writers on AuthorTube, you might be interested, and I will pop that in the chat. Basically, it's like a mastermind group where we meet once a month and we go over tips and tricks, questions, sort of like help each other out. So that is available, and I'll pop that in there. And then the other thing I have is StreamYard Sundays. So if you haven't seen one of those, basically little tutorials that I do 2 Sundays a month if required. This month, I think it'll just be one Sunday a month, but you can sign up on the form I have just to tell me like where you're at with StreamYard and what you want to learn. And then we tailor like a little tutorial that I put on my channel to help you as well as other people get more comfortable with the tools, using things like banners, using things like overlays, using things like fancy backgrounds and background music and all that sort of thing. So if you'd like some help with that, that is in the chat as well. And bonus, on the last Sunday this month, Dee Blair Gold is going to be my guest on my Sundays on StreamYard. And she has a lovely AuthorTube channel. And I just won a giveaway from her. So I'm going to surprise unbox the giveaway. I mean, I saw what she had put in there when she did the giveaway, but whoa. But I thought I'd add a little excitement, and her information is in the chat. So she's got the little make it happen, cute little notebook. She's left a note in there. Yay. Very sweet. There's a sketchbook as well, a little bigger format that is blank. So all open for the ideas. And then, oh my gosh, there's like raised stickers, fancy stickers that are emojis, which is pretty awesome. So I love these. I love these. Look at that. Wi-Fi and feathers and peace signs. That's really cute. So thank you so much, Dee, for being part of the AuthorTube community. Oh, there's one more thing in here. One very important thing, which is I'm going to call this a foo-foo pen because this is going to satisfy all my Dr. Seuss desires while I'm writing. Isn't that cute? So thank you, Dee Blair Gold, and you should all go check out her channel and subscribe. She's doing productivity sprints this month for Camp Nano. And yes, I agree, Mama Maggie. Miss Dee is so lovely and supportive, as you can see. So I want to do a little shout out and a thank you for her sending me her giveaway prizes this month. And I need the StreamYard tutorial so much, but I think that until I get better internet, it might be hopeless. Oh, I feel ya. Yeah. She also says, I'll be rewatching Miss Fisher's Mysteries and grabbing a book. Ooh, what book will you grab? This is the interesting part. So that is it for our coming attractions. Again, if you have a question about the readathon, pop it in the chat. The first part of this pile of possibilities, and if you don't know, that is a phrase that was coined by Kazen at Always Doing, who has a delightful, wide variety channel, very understanding and aware channel, very good reviews that are tailored to even people who aren't reading like her. So she explains who would like this type of book. And yeah, just generally awesome. So she started calling it a pile of possibilities when she was kind of saying, I'm a mood reader, so I may get to these, I may not, but I think I'm going to concentrate in this area, but I'm not trying to read all of them. So pressure off. And that's what I thought I'd go with for the May of the Moderns, especially because I have 3 stacks of books to go through here for you. The first part of this that I'm going to do is read books. So since I have done this readathon once already, I can recommend these to read. So I'm going to go through the ones that I don't have physically first, just so that I don't forget them. I've put them in green on the Buddy Read sign-up sheet, which if you have not seen it yet, I'll pop in the chat, which is right here. There we go. Barrett's back. I snuck a peek at the participants in the live chat, and I knew Barrett was there and then gone like a flash and then back. It's just funny. Okay. And the cat's creating chaos. Normal day. Normal day. All right. So the first books that I have read and can recommend, but I don't have physical copies of, if you're looking on the Buddy Read sign-up sheet, it is number 1, The Playboy of the Western World by J.M. Singh, written in 1907 in Ireland. This I buddy read with Lana of Lana Ex Libris last year, and it's a very short play. It's very different from either of our experiences because of the time removed and the setting. So if you were a fan of the Irish Readathon and you're looking for something to expand that vibe, this would be a great one. Book number 2, The Cruise of the Nonna by Hilaire Belloc, written in 1925, and he is based in the UK, was based in the UK. He's a guy with a French name who was writing and became well known as a man of letters in the UK. And this is his like travel diary and philosophizing diary of taking a sailboat and like bumping along around the southern coast of the UK for months at a time. So just imagine what that must have been like to have that amount of time, right? So it was both tedious and fascinating. So I'm recommending it because once I got past the this is a dude in this setting with this amount of privilege, he actually expanded upon a lot of subjects and topics I thought were interesting for his day and age. So very interesting, and I'm glad I tried a Hilaire Belloc book. And the last one that I don't have a physical copy of right now is A Passage to India by E.M. Forster, written in 1924 and based in the UK. This one would work really well for prompt number 4, The End of Empire. And I just recently watched the movie. There's like a 1960s movie, maybe. I think it's a 1960s. It's black and white. That was based on this book. And it was trippy. So it recalled some of the book that I'd read a year ago and made me question a lot of the things. So I had to go back and look at my notes. And I read this as a buddy read with Rainer of Rainier Books. And he's got a fantastic channel. He dives into a lot of book award lists and is also interested in social causes and that sort of thing. So you're going to be in for a good bucket of information dumped on Rainer's channel. And we had a great discussion. So maybe I'll pop that up to give you a little preview of what you might be doing this May with your own buddy read. So again, if you are interested in doing a buddy read this year, I have the sign-up sheet in the chat right there, and you can look at what people have listed. You can see if any of these recommended books are your jam, or you can try for something that you haven't heard of yet, or maybe I'll get to it in just a second. Richard Holiday is here. I hope Richard was here to hear me mention the Hilaire Belloc book because he might be interested in that. Lauren Adele is here. Hello. Barrett had a pup to potty. Beans. Oh, goodness. The dog's not into beans, is she? Okay. Maggie says there are 21 Miss Fisher books by Carrie Greenwood. I haven't read any of them. I didn't know there were books. Now my TBR is To the Moon plus 21. Yes, well, those are good. I've definitely heard good things about Carrie Greenwood. But she is historical fiction. I believe she's still alive. And this is for books written in the 20th century, first half. So I'm not expecting any of these authors to be alive. How's your day, my friend? Barrett saying hello. Let's give a synopsis. I had a great word writing morning with Shannon and Jenna's sprint this morning. So hello, Jenna and Shannon, if you're out there. Almost 1,000 words. And yesterday I saw the dentist, and now I know I have to get my first oral surgery, which is a little scary, but we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Yes. Lauren is excited to read new things. Excellent. Jenna, I hear Loki in my lap taking away my typing power. Nice. Maggie says, sorry, kitten assistant is warm on the wrists, but hard on the spelling. No worries. Yep, Lauren Adele was also on the sprint with Jenna and Shannon earlier today. Jenna says, thanks for making all of your awesome readathons, hon. This one really made me rip through my old literature major books. Nice. Shannon is there. Made friends with the like button. Thank you, Shannon. Richard's saying he was listening. He'll look into it. Melissa here to say happy Friday from Canada. Brian here to say listening while out on my walk. That's a challenge because I know you've got dogs that I'm sure like to pull. So I hope there's no mishaps. And now that the hounds are free, sending hugs to the like button. Yuck dentistry, says Richard. Yep. Oh, OMG, it's going to be okay. I know. It's a wisdom tooth that needs to come out. Just one of the 4. So Get those Steve Martin vibes from Little Shop of Horrors. No, thank you. Never fun nor cheap. Yeah. So that is the mini update. So let's continue with the read books that I can recommend for the May Readathon, starting with the ones I read over the last year. First, we have The Souls of Black Folk by W.E. Burghardt Dubose. And I'm going to say that this time. Maybe I'll change it the next time. Who knows? This was written in 1903. As you can see, I had a lot of tabs to put in there. I just saw someone else review this as well. And it's tricky because at the time it was very forward thinking. And now, of course, looking back, we see that there's problematics in the intersectionality of it all. But it is a foundational work and much worth reading. So I would definitely recommend The Souls of Black Folk as foundational for nonfiction, race, class, changing from Jim Crow to our modern age, and perfect for the period. Oh. Oh, Jenna. Maggie says baby goat mayhem. Okay, so Brian's walking his dog mayhem, and Maggie might have baby goat mayhem. We're all about it here. Eva stopping in to say heyo, and alarm goes off at 7 and I start uptown. I think that's a lyric reference, but I'm not sure. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to start tossing these down to the ground. The next one I have, if Beth Ann is still in the comments, I think she was reading last year and may have finished, or maybe coming back to finish this year. It's not that long, but it is a pretty dense memoir-like account of Hull House. So if you have watched any of my author videos, you know that Jane Addams is a topic of interest. Martha Jones of Self-Righteousness recently did a video investigating the old Hull House owner's family property in Illinois, if that makes sense. So she lives near enough that she could go visit where the family used to have holdings and sort of discover a little bit about it. And that was really cool. So apparently I inspired her to check it out. This has been in her backyard her whole life. But this book is not about Jane Addams' life so much as it is the development of her philosophy about poverty and charity and social work as it was beginning as a field, and the creation of Hull House, which is still a going concern in Chicago and environs, and had a few predecessors, but I think this was the first one in the US to start in 1894-ish. Yeah, it's been a while. I put that book aside. So yeah, and so this is really, really interesting. And I've been trying to get the sequel to this, but because it was published right during World War I, it had a very limited run. It did not get popular enough to get reprints. It is not in print now. And so it's impossible to get a freaking copy of it unless you're going to buy the whole set, and it's going to be like $100-something. So if anyone has a line on the second 20 years at Hull House, please drop me a line because I'd love to read it. But yeah, this was excellent. History, nonfiction, again, memoir. And then finally we get to a fiction. As you may realize, this is a Persephone book with a pretty great cover. Gina Stanier Books was just talking about Persephone books, and I let her know that they have a newsletter, and she was like, oh, how did I not know? Yes, this publisher that is going in the UK does gorgeous editions of books. They're all gray on the cover, so they can be super exciting inside. They have very intentional end papers and matching bookmarks that say something about the period and the themes of the book. So in this case, it's High Wages by Dorothy Whipple, and this was a delightful buddy read with Katya of Katya Read, Write, Create. And we had a buddy read discussion about this. I might pop up, or I might just put the playlist up for last year. And this is a lovely sort of coming of age of a young woman who works in a drapery shop, sort of trying to find her place in the world and stand up for herself, and the scrapes she gets into and the chances she takes, and the sort of blinding realizations she comes to at the end of what's worth it. And it was so good. So I hope Katya is here to back me up at how good High Wages by Dorothy Whipple is. And there should be other copies of this because I think it's more popular than some of the other rescued books from Persephone. Let's see. Oh, okay. Thank you. Lyric reference was from Little Shop of Horrors because I think Richard was talking about it. Where is it in Illinois? Cedar something? I don't remember. If you go to Martha Jones' channel on self-righteousness, it's going to be like her like third video ago or something. So it should be pretty easy to find. And Eva says, the book I'm reading now, the one I just finished, are both middle grade, but both seem to be historical in nature. Have you read any books by author Avi? I've definitely heard that name, or Sharon Draper. And I definitely heard that name because I heard you mentioned Stella by Starlight, which I've seen on social media recently, but not, don't know much about other than that. And Avi, I think, was popular when I was a kid, but I'm blanking. And again, these are books that were written from 1901 to 1945. So I don't know if those would qualify. Next, I have The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnhem. Another enchanted life, shall we say. I read this with a trio of ladies, and we had a lovely discussion. I'm not sure the ending was as satisfying as it could have been, but it was a lovely book. It especially starts out like perfectly. It's several women from different situations, marital statuses, classes, who end up going in together to rent a villa in Italy for a month. And it's in their 30s, sort of like down and out at home and rainy and gray and dismal in London. And they all have their own issues they're trying to work through. They come to Italy. They think things are going to be solved, or at least they'll have a respite. And, comedy ensues, as well as some tragedy, some drama. And it's a very cozy, like comfort read. So women's fiction, great historical detail, and there's like lovely sort of natural descriptions and landscape descriptions and sort of feeling through the landscape, the feelings of the characters, which I always appreciate. So if you like that too, Enchanted April, Elizabeth von Arnhem. Next up on Read Books that I can recommend, a Virago modern classic. This is another easy to recognize publisher, so I always try to check these out when I see them on the shelf, is Precious Bane. And this is actually a historical fiction from the period that we're looking at. So it was written between 1901 to 1945, but it was about the early 19th century. And so you can kind of get the idea. There's a peasant girl, and she's in... is it Devon? Is it Somerset? It might be Somerset. And so there's highly specific regional detail in this about peasant life in early 19th century to give a very, dare I say, Gothic feel. And we really liked this. I think I read this with Tony, and we really liked the naturalism. I definitely would think this would fall into the same naturalism pool of books as Silas Marner. I think that I studied that was in the naturalism chapter or unit that we did in high school, but that's a long time ago. Just about how the environment around them reflects the culture and the people and the ups and downs of the story and the arc. And so that was really powerful. It's a girl who is growing up in a difficult family situation and a difficult community situation, and she has a cleft palate. So she is a form of disabled person for this community, and has to find joy where she can and see past people's defense mechanisms. So this is a very sweet story and lots of sad things, but does it spoil it if I say it's a good book because I ended up happy? I'll say that. And I ended up happy. So there we go. Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff. Hello. The books I'm reading set in Chicago are urban fantasies. Interesting. Have I heard any of the Chicago urban fantasies that you've been reading? That's cool. Lauren Adele reading The Book Thief. Marcus Zuzak. Excellent. Queen of Books You've Never Heard of strikes again. Thank you, Jenna. Love those covers and insides. Drapery, scrapery. Eva says, I'm closer to St. Louis than Chicago, but curious if the Hull House is nearest to me. Gonna go check it out. Excellent. Yeah, Hull House is in a different location than it used to be because they raised it to make University of Illinois one of the campuses that's like right next to Greektown. But then social services, it's kind of decentralized now. But the place that Martha went to is like where their family used to live in the country, and now it's sold and it's private property. So that may be harder to find, but at least she got the long range view with her camera. Yeah, in the Chicago area. The authors were born in that time frame, but the books are both more recently published, 2000s maybe, 2015. Yeah. So that would be in the historical fiction readathon, which, again, I forgot to say this, but I am a historical fiction author. I meant to say this at the beginning. And there's a historical fiction readathon going on in May. So, if anyone involved in that wants to ask me to talk about historical fiction, I would be happy to come on and talk about the research or the process or the genre conventions or anything like that. Because I write for the 19th century, which is just before this, feeding into this one. Maggie's saying, I loved Enchanted April. Yes, and she has other books. In case you didn't know, she has other books that are well regarded as well. Mary Webb was ahead of their time. This is Jenna. Maggie says, Somerset around Glastonbury Abbey. Yep, we've been looking up Glastonbury Abbey this morning. So yeah, it has nothing to do with the Abbey or Arthurian legend, but very much the regional flavor of curmudgeonry, if that makes sense. Jim's Chicago Urban Fantasies include Stormfront, which is the first of the Dresden Files. Okay. And Dead End Job, which is Death Looking for an Intern. That sounds fun. That sounds like a Charlene Harris title. Interesting. Cool deal. All right. We're almost to the end of the red books that I can recommend. Does anyone remember this chunker? Yes. I read this later in the summer. So not for the readathon, but I had to spread it out over several months, obviously. This is another Persephone book. And there's the end papers that look all pretty. These are all signs, save for victory. Few Eggs and No Oranges, the diaries of Vere Hodgson from 1940 to 1945. And this is literally, like the few paragraphs that she would jot down during the war while she stayed in London and visited some family near Manchester. And she was working, I think, for like a religious charity organization and just like hiding out every night during the Blitz and reading this at the same time as I can't remember now, but I read a fiction about the Blitz that was contemporary. I should have done this ahead of time. But anyway, it was really neat to read the nonfiction and the fiction alongside that were contemporaries because they didn't know what would happen. And it's kind of like reading a pandemic diary when you don't know how the story ends, like, except that we do. So this was really powerful. Nothing, groundbreaking in terms of story or arc. It's literally a diary that is written by someone who cleaned up the stuff and like arranged things so that they would be understandable to other people. But it's just like the details, and especially if you're writing about this period, that would be very useful. So I really enjoyed over several months, Few Eggs and No Oranges, Diaries of Vere Hodgson. That could have also gone in March of the Mammoths, right? We have Quicksand and Passing. I've got a copy of this one by Nella Larson. I've only read Passing, but I could also read Quicksand. They're very short novellas, but very important to the genre and the experience of African Americans in this time period. Lots of other people have said more insightful things. So there's also a Netflix movie out about this now, and I have not watched it yet. So if anyone wants to do like a, adaptation, if Nia sees this, that could be really cool, actually. Well, there you go. Then we have the one I was really excited about to find last year, The Marrow of Tradition by Charles W. Chestnut, written in 1901. This is the Penguin Classic Edition. This is one of the books that I was very interested in because it's a fictional representation of a riot in a North Carolina town. And I subsequently got the nonfiction Wilmington, what's it called? now I'm going to blank on the name. There's a nonfiction book that's like really thick that's about the actual events of this riot in 1899. So really at the beginning, between Reconstruction and Jim Crow, or at the height of Jim Crow, depending on where you are, I suppose. And it dives into intimacies between communities and the color line and treatment and understanding among different generations at this time. And so it's really, really interesting. So Charles W. Chestnut's The Marrow of Tradition. Thrilling ride. And then finally, I think someone will be reading this. Someone signed up for this already. Their Eyes Were Watching God, which is a genuine classic by Zora Neale Hurston. A lot of people have read this in high school or college, and I waited till last year to read it. I got some help. I got a local researcher, someone on the school board in Washington. So I was very excited to read this with someone else. And it's very accessible. It's a great story about a woman's coming of age as well as coming into power and how she goes through different relationships, changing in each one. There's a lot of shocking stuff about Florida history in this because that's where it's set. I think mostly like the panhandle, not the isthmus, of Florida, and like I don't know if it's a hurricane that comes through, but it's definitely a natural disaster and what happens in the aftermath of that. So that's what's stuck with me for the year. But obviously, this is a huge classic and lots of reasons to read and appreciate. So that is my last read book. Can recommend. Oh, and I was going to have a different thing up here, which was, how about you? Do you have a favorite book from this period to recommend to others? If so, pop it in the chat. And then we'll switch over to unread books in just a moment. Let's see if I need to catch up with anything here. I know what I need to catch up with. So some of you may know I've got something coming up next week. And until that day, the books that I have on Smashwords are 99 cents each. So go forth and multiply those sales. Basically, it's a chance to load up. You can buy ebooks on Smashwords and download them in any format. So if you're a Kindle user, go ahead, just get them from Smashwords, and they'll give you the right format for your Kindle reader. But yeah, I've got historical mystery, I've got historical YA time travel, and then I've got my series Remnants, which is straight historical fiction drama, family saga from Scotland to Canada. So if any of those appeal, now is your chance to get it on sale, which is pretty easy. bit.ly.com/MP Smash, because Smashwords. So hopefully that is an easy one to remember. And that will be running until my birthday next Wednesday. And before you ask, I do not have plans. I do not know what I wanted to do. I thought I might like go off and be alone like Marlene, but I don't know. I'm not feeling that either. So what do you do when you're turning 41? Is that a special day to celebrate? I don't even know. So I'm trying to play it down. Jenna likes Jim's book choice. I think that's what that sigh means. Maggie says the lady with the gun asks the questions is the next Phryne Fisher book release. Okay. Love teaching Hurston to juniors and seniors, says Jenna. Richard Holiday was thinking about, is Florida an isthmus or a peninsula? Yeah, well, we need to sort out that word isthmus, I think, because I think I have a different concept. So good books to recommend for the period: Out of the Dust and The Worst Hard Time, about the Great Dust Bowl, which Maggie's family lived through and managed to keep their farm during. Barely. On my TBR is a book called The Four Winds. Yes, that's Kristen Hanna's book. And again, that's historical fiction about the time period. So that is not what we're aiming to read for this readathon. But I don't know about the other books. They could be written during then. Interesting. Jim's books, reading and stuff. I find it good to read Their Eyes Were Watching God while listening to the audio to get an authentic Afro-American voice. That would be good. I wonder who. I bet there's several different narrators available. So yeah, you could probably try out and find one you like. Jenna doubly suggests Out of the Dust. Shannon says, so many books to read, not enough time to consume. Definitely. I had the thought, like, what if I tried to go for reading a book a day in May? What if I just tried? And then I looked at the books that I have on my list and I'm like, they're too big. They're too big. Like, I wouldn't be able to eat. Shannon says, don't think about it until you turn 42. I did normal things when I turned 41, says Eva. It's literally just one day older. Yeah. I think last year or the year before, I did ice cream cake in the park and, just had a friend over to sit outside. The crazy weather may forestall any outdoor plans this year, but we'll see. We'll see. And maybe I'll treat myself to a bookstore run. Although in the past month, I've gotten books twice that I already had. So I think that means I need to be cut off. One of them I'll show to you. Oh, Eva's about to go pick up 5 new bookshelves. That's so exciting. And Eva says, if they aren't full once we sort these books, guess who is going to bookshop? Oh, yeah. There you go. Good excuse. I like it. Thinking smart here. So those are the red books that I can recommend. And this is the sale that I'm encouraging y'all to take advantage of for ebooks or Kindle books. You just go to Smashwords to download them. But I wanted to highlight the people who are helping with the readathon and participating already. And so I have my list ready of participants that I wanted to thank and shout out. So this is where I'm pulling from here, the sign-up sheet, which is already in the chat, as well as the Storygraph Challenge. So I've got my prompts on the Storygraph Challenge, and I've already gone through what they are, but I will pop that up in case anyone needs it. And I was going to, I'm going to shout out those folks and then talk about their recommendations later. So the first prompt, sex, a book that deals with the changing attitudes towards sex. I got Francesca Bauman of Persephone Books to choose this, and she gave us some recommendations for that prompt. Number 2 is Timeless Prompt, unfortunately, a Black classic that discusses race and class in ways that are still relevant in today's modern world. And that was submitted by Bree, the Locked Booktician, who has a fabulous channel and has a resource in the form of a playlist for Black classics, which is on the Storygraph Challenge page, which I'll pop up there. There we go. Number 3 is War, a book, novel, memoir, poems, whatever format, about World War I, written by an author who actually fought as a soldier during the war. And I'm expanding this a little bit to include combatants as well as support staff and non-combatants who served during the war, because one of my books from Persephone falls into this category, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Number 4, End of Empire, a book set in a place that was an imperial possession at this time, or by an author from a place that was, and that was Roz of Skallydandling About the Books suggestion, which I loved. And we've got some suggestions there in her prompt. And then the final one is The Other, a book translated from another language. And unfortunately, I only have one physical book that falls into that category, but we have plenty of recommendations for you to find in other ways on the Storygraph page. So feel free to go and support those creators who gave me those prompts. They're like BookTube celebrities, so I'm very appreciative that they took the time to have that conversation with me and submit something out of their expertise. And then we've got people who are participating already, either on the sign-up sheet or on the Storygraph page. So that is Kira the Scrivener. Is very excited. I love her channel. We've got Ben Pick at Running to Write is already popped down for a buddy read. We've got Chrissy at the Return Cart, who I used for an example in my launch or kickoff video. And she was like, sure, that sounds fine. Keep me in there, which is great. So she's being a good sport. I've got Melissa from Fully Booked, registered for a buddy read and participating on Storygraph, which is awesome. I've got Shannon from ST Houston, who is in the chat, who might be overbooking herself, but we're very okay with not achieving all the things on the spreadsheet. It's definitely like question of priorities. We get it. I've got Rachel, who is the RK Stumbling Bear channel, and she signed up for a buddy read. Katya at Read, Write, Create is also signed up for a buddy read because she did this last year with me and we enjoyed ourselves so much. So hopefully that is a good recommendation to join this year. Beth Ann, as I said, I think started 20 years at Hull House and then maybe coming back to finish. So we'll see what she ends up choosing. Lana of Lana Ex Libris is someone I read The Play With by J.M. Singh because she is a drama, I'm going to say drama expert, actress, musical expert on her channel. So that was the angle we chose. And she, I think, chose a translated one this year on the sign-up sheet. So that's very exciting. And Jenna O'Malley is also on the sign-up sheet because I think someone, I think she saw something about newts and was like, sign me up to that. So yes, on board because, you know, we're all supporting each other, which is great. And then on Storygraph, I saw Loretta Webb is joining, who I met through the Black Author Tuber Readathon, which is great. Rosie Cockshutt has signed up to Mood Read a Classic, which is great because we all read and choose our books in different ways. Gemma of Gem of Books is on over there, so I'm excited to see what she picks. Currently, I'm reading Pachinko with her Pachinko Along group for April, which is fun. And then we've got Phantom James, who I'm not sure that is, and I don't know who that is, and Rachel 45, which I don't think is Rachel of RK Stumbling Bear. So we've got mystery people who I'm not sure who they are, but I'm glad they're joining in, and everyone is welcome. So that is my shout out series. Thank you to the guys. Thank you to the people who are participating in any format and getting me excited to host and do our giveaways and do our reading sprints and, you know, just interact with our buddy reads because yes. Okay. So, speaking of buddy reads, yay, Melissa says very much looking forward to the readathon. Love the time period. Speaking of buddy reads, Barrett, I've got all these books coming up here. So you can look at the buddy read sign up sheet to choose one that I put down and I don't have a partner for yet. Or you can listen into these and see if any of these strike your fancy. If you can stay, because it's going to take me a while to work through these. You don't owe me anything. We're all good. We just want to try a buddy read because it'll be fun. Jenna says, I've actually read part of the book before in college, so it would be nice to read it entirely. Oh, the nude book. Okay. Very cool. All right. So I can put my computer away now so that I don't topple any more stuff. You'll notice that I don't have it up here because I learned my lesson last time. So we got 2 stacks. So let's try to go through this semi-quickly. The Octopus by Frank Norris. This is the second copy of the book that I bought, and I still haven't read it. So if anyone wants to read this with me, I've got a book that I can post to you to read it together. This is the first in his proposed series at the turn of the 20th century. I read the second one, which is set in Chicago, about the stock exchange and the corruption in the elite as well as the stock exchange. And this is the one that's set in California about not the trading, but the actual farming and storing and selling of wheat that influences the trading. That is also a corrupt system. So, you know, Gilded Age, wheat, monopolies. So I'm looking for a lot of parallels with our age. I'm very excited about this book. So if you're interested, bear it. Let's see. Next we've got, these are all sort of different vibes. So I'll I guess, shout out if I see what they'll apply to prompt-wise. But could this be End of Empire if it's Gilded Age America? Could it be sex? The second one definitely had some sex-changing attitudes in it. I don't think it'd be war because it's definitely before the World War. So sometimes you have to read to see what they'll apply to, but I'm definitely interested in that for research purposes. The next one's got a completely different vibe by Paul Gallico. It's called Mrs. Aris Goes to Paris, Mrs. Aris Goes to New York. And it's a gay and delightful adventure of this engaging London charwoman who has beguiled readers all over the world. So comic novel, and yeah, we'll see if it's problematic, right? So that sounded good. Oh, all right. Barrett's suggesting the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. Oh no, you don't get to sign me up for anything. This is one that Amrita attempted last year and like had to DNF. So I have no faith that I'm going to be able to get through that. And I don't have a copy of it, and we're not buying books. So the next one I've got is a P.G. Wodehouse, Uckridge. And this is because it's on the Ancient TBR. Some of these I'm actually trying just to read so that I can get them out of the house. Because I feel like if I had them for this long and then don't read them before I get rid of them, like what was I doing all this time? So it's basically saving my self-respect. The other P.G. Wodehouse, it's actually spelled out on this one. Let's see if I can read it. It's rather hard to read because it's so old. Pelham Grenville Wodehouse. Whatever a PG stands for. This is Uneasy Money. And I think I got this one free because it's falling apart and it's so old. But yeah, 2 Wodehouse books. They're comic novels, but kind of like Dorothy Sayers. I don't think they're really my vibe. So maybe I'll read one or the other and decide whether I want to keep them both. This is what I'm looking forward to. I got on my trip to Chicago. It's by Edna Ferber. It's called So Big. This is actually a Pulitzer Prize winning author, and it's about someone making it in Chicago, I think. The unforgettable story of one woman's struggle to stay afloat and maintain her dignity in the face of monumental challenges. Ooh, does that sound like someone's current work in progress? Maybe. So that's why this is on my list as a research work, and I'm very excited. The next one, actually, I know I'm going to fulfill for the translation prompt. Eva asks, wait, we have to read books we have just because we have them? No, you don't. But that's the rule I'm setting for myself, because if I go out and buy books for this readathon, not only will it be like a losing money venture, but it'll also not accomplish the getting books off my ancient TBR, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's what I'm aiming for. This is going to work for the other prompt number 5, a translated literature by Ismat Chugtai, Quit India and Other Stories. So this is a woman who has written about important movements in India and strikes and labor unrest. And let's see, some of the stories are from our period and some are later, but I figured that was enough to nose its way into the readathon. It reflects her insights into the loves and lives, as well as the shared histories and experiences of Hindus and Muslims in India. Witty yet sharp, affectionate yet clear-eyed, this is Chugtai at her penetrating best, taking a close look at community dynamics through her personal and social bifocals. So this sounded really good, and I found this in a local used bookstore, so I was very happy about that. Recent purchase, Parnassus on Wheels by Christopher Morley. This may have been where they got the name for Parnassus, the bookstore in Tennessee, I think. But anyway, this is about someone who changes his life and starts a mobile library in like 1915, 1910. And yeah, it's tiny, and it's about a bookstore. So why not? Yes, please. The next one is a travel memoir, which I've had at least a year because it was long enough to get water damage from me watering the plants and the plant dripping off the counter onto the book, unfortunately. This is A Time of Gifts by Patrick Leigh Fermor. And their introduction is by Jan Morris, famous travel writer. So this is someone who took a walking trip, a scallydandle, if you will, across Europe in the 1930s, early 1930s, and observed everything basically on the brink of the wheels being set in motion for World War II. And so it's a very interesting glimpse in time. He edited them long after, but they are based on his original journals. And so I figure this is basically 1930s Europe before the war, and it would be really interesting. So that is that, a New York Review of Books book. Boop, boop, boop. Eva says my TBR is quite long now. TBR is like laundry that way, says Jenna. And Shannon's laughing. Eva says, we're going to start the library sort this evening. I'm excited to see if I have any of these books. I definitely have quite a few from the early 1900s. I love old books. Yay! Yeah, I know. I know. But I have to read them and get rid of them if I don't want to reread, you know? So the next one is another Persephone book that I have not read. There's the end papers, kind of pretty. This is called William, an Englishman. Oh, and I had the description open because I thought the description would be helpful for these. Persephone, not only does it have an excellent newsletter, but it has a page for all of their titles where they have the foreword and sort of an explanation. So here's the foreword for, or the preface for William, an Englishman. Persephone book number 1, first one they published, was written, quote, in a rage in 1918. This extraordinary novel is a passionate assertion of the futility of war. This is from The Spectator. Its author had been an actress and suffragette. After 1914, she worked at the Scottish Women's Hospital at Royaumont and organized concerts at the front. William, an Englishman, was written in a tent within sounds of guns and shells. This, quote, stunning, terrifically good, end quote, novel is in one sense a very personal book, animated by fury and cynicism, and in another a detached one, yet it is always, quote, profoundly moving, end quote. So this is the one I thought really deserved to be in Brian's prompt about actual combatants in war, even though it's someone who is a nurse in a war, because not unlike my fictional Shiro, Maisie Dobbs, she is a war nurse, so someone that was at the front and has valuable experiences to share about their view of the war and war in general. So very excited about that one. I'd love someone to read this with me, but that's a harder one to get because I think it's only published by Persephone unless you find a random used copy. Berna says, why not? It's a question I ask myself and then somehow end up with lots of books on my reading list. It's dangerous, this question. Eva says, I may only read middle grade this year. I've been having a ball the last month reading them. Yeah, happy place. Definitely true. Shannon says, I'm basically sticking to fantasy romance now, except for the May of the Moderns. Interesting. So you're halfway between your third novel, which is fantasy, and your next project, which is romance. Is it fantasy romance as well? I can't remember if you said it was. That's like, I can see you like reading this shift. That's very cool. That's very cool. So we go back to a comic novel. This is called The Freaks of Mayfair by E.F. Benson. And unfortunately, I get E.F. Benson and E.M. Delafield mixed up a little bit. Let me show you the other book I have. Gosh, there's still a lot to go through in this stack. E.M. Delafield, The Provincial Lady in London. So they're similar vibes to me. They're people satirizing people of the leisure class of the time period. They have varying levels of sympathy for their foibles and hurts, etc. But it's very much, I don't know if I would call it a novel of manners, because I've seen people talk about that pretty specifically lately. But the comedy is what shines through. So if you're looking for a light read that'll make you giggle and, you know, like laugh at people being silly and then be tricked into like heartbreak for them because they were really trying to do something, then these may be your jam. So that's Freaks of Mayfair by E.F. Benson, or The Provincial Lady in London, which is written as, I think as a diary. Yeah, I think it's his diary entries. And that's also got like woodcut illustrations. This is kind of a cool edition by E.M. Delafield. So there's that. We've got another Mary Webb I found, 7 for a Secret. The cover is not inspiring here, even though it's a Virago Modern Classic edition, because I've seen this illustration used for many other book covers, which is whatever. But this is, let's see, between England and Wales, filled with romantic longings, and there's a shepherd who falls in love with her. Then someone comes to town and disrupts these gentle moorland people, unmasking all that lies beneath their quiet ways, even the secret that's never been told. So again, naturalism, historical fiction, definitely regional taste, and like romance along the way, and hopefully a happy ending, judging by her last book. Yeah, halfway between. That's smart. That's very strategic, which when it's you, I'm not surprised. In my head, I'm basically done with my YA fantasy. Just one more read through with my beta notes here soon. Send to editor, make edits, and be done. Imagine, just imagine, right? And Jenna's saying the art of woodcut illustrations feels so lost. I know, the only place you're going to find those, you know where the only place is? Those reality shows that take people back to like live in a Victorian place and do arts and crafts as a community. Has anyone seen that show? Or is it just me? I can't remember where I saw it. It might have been Netflix, but there was this series, a first season of a group of like 5 or 6 people, and they had to wear and eat and interact basically like they were artisans from a commune in 1900, to get the feel of what that was like around William Morris's time. And someone had to like do cutouts to make wallpaper stamps and then make the wallpaper, and then that was their project to do in like 3 days, and it was like all new skills. So yeah, that's where you're gonna find your woodcuts. So oh, I forgot to put this one up. This is what we're doing. These are all the unread books on my pile of possibilities. And the question, if you'd like to pop this in, is do you have an ancient TBR book that you want to cross off your list in May? This one I wanted to read last year. It's Dorothy Parker. So if anyone knows Dorothy Parker's reputation, it is as a wry, wisecracking femme fatale kind of character. And I've never encountered her own work, just what people said about her. So this is why I was really excited to possibly read this, but I didn't make it onto the list last year. It's called Laments for the Living. And I can't not say it in the accent that I hear other people say it in, which is Dorothy Parker, which sounds Southern, but I don't know, she was from the South, so I don't know why people say it that way. But anyway, a callow youth is in the first chapter. I remember reading the beginning and thinking it was too hilarious for me to pass up, so that's why I bought it. And yeah, so another comic novel, but pretty biting, if that is more your style. We've got another classic, Virginia Woolf, To the Lighthouse. Haven't read it, have heard various things about it, that Virginia Woolf is super boring. I did read Square Hunting, and so I have like new respect for Virginia Woolf, but she wasn't the most interesting character in that cast for me. So also like not a priority here, but suggestion if anyone else has this like languishing on their list. Then we're getting around the last corner. There's like fewer than 10 now. Shannon says, Escaping Avila Chase by M.K. Williams, one of her first works. Okay. All right. I guess I meant for the readathon. I am very interested in checking out M.K. Williams as well, since you recommended her channel to me. She's really great. She does lots of short video tutorials about things that are definitely relevant right now in publishing. So yeah, so I'm looking for like books that would match this list that I'm going over. So the next one I have is The Call by Edith Airton Zangwill. And ooh, I don't think I've actually opened that one to look at the end papers yet. That's really pretty. So The Call, let's see, I opened this one. This is more about suffragettes in the UK, about a woman scientist who abandons her research work in chemistry to be a suffragette. It has several meanings: military, feminist, vocational, and emotional. I think it's mirroring like basically her radicalization as a suffragette, because she sees an older woman gets pushed over in the street. She gets really mad. She demonstrates. She gets locked up. She gets force fed, which if you've watched the movie, like is kind of the big trauma that they do to these women that is portrayed in our media today. And yeah, ends up firmly in that cause. So this one's a little more daunting. It's quite long, and there's a lot more like meat to it, I think. Whereas William and Englishman feels more like action and easily understandable. So this is my back burner Persephone book. So yeah. Then we've got another nonfiction on my unread list. It's called Tell My Horse by Zora Neale Hurston. I was very excited when I saw this at my local used bookstore because it's one of her nonfictions that's not as easy to find. And it was first published in 1938. It is the first substantial inquiry undertaken by an Afro-American scholar into the hoodoo or voodoo cults of Jamaica and Haiti. So it's a first-person account of Zora Neale Hurston's travel in these islands and talking about voodoo and folklore and how the people believe and get by in those contexts. So again, very interesting. Might require a close read with a partner to really fully get it. But it's on my shelf. Let's see. I've got the Diary of Anais Nin. And in case you don't know, my publishing company, Taste Life Twice, is taken from a quote from this person. We write to taste life twice, in the moment and in retrospection, or retrospect, depending on how you translate it. And I love that quote because it speaks to why I have such a passion for writing and what it does for me as a person. But I'm a little scared of her diary because this is definitely going to fall in the sex section because she was, I wouldn't say a temptress, but she definitely had like this reputation of kind of being like D.H. Lawrence in France for Women. So yeah, I'm kind of like, oh, what am I going to find in here? I'm a little scared. So if any of you have read any of her diaries, I think she's got like 4 or 5 different volumes for the different years. The one I have is volume 1, 31 to 34. Let me know what I'm in for. We'll see if I make it through this one this year. Then we've got another book I'm kind of questionable on. I found this, I don't know if I paid for it. It was one of the free ones, or if it was one of my grandparents. To Jean. I can't remember where I got this one. It's called Mamba's Daughters by Dubose Hayward. And in the same way, Brooks Without Straw is a classic of Reconstruction. I was looking at this in terms of investigating Reconstruction as a background to my Chicago novel, but there's so much that is problematic or discomforting reading these old accounts and how people are portrayed and how it's changed from now to then, even reading about them, that I don't know if I can read this. So I don't know. If anyone's heard anything about this, or I don't know, maybe I'll just go on Wikipedia and just make a decision whether I want to keep this or not. Yeah, questionable. Jenna says, I've tried to start To the Lighthouse a few times, keep failing to finish it. Yeah, well, you're not alone. Shannon says, the call is pretty inside. I know, right? Jenna says, a Hurston treasure, right? So one of the original sociologists, that's just when the field was coming into being of sociology, traveling and cataloging other cultures' beliefs. And there's some disconnect between whether we believe that's archaeology or sociology and how you're viewing another culture and their legitimacy, I think, in that time period and maybe now. But yeah, that's a story for another day. There we go. Here's the fiction of Anais Nin, Delta of Venus. This is erotica by the author. And this is why I told you she has this reputation. So I don't know. Is this going to be easier? She's got, I don't know if they're separate books or stories. I haven't looked into this for a long time. It's just been sitting on my shelf. Maybe I'll get Martha to read this one with me. Contents. Yeah, I guess it's short stories, short erotica stories. So yeah, so again, I stole her quote, but I don't know if I can go through the erotica. We'll see. 1930s erotica, how bad can it be? And then we've got Vida Sackville-West, who is a person I read last year. I read The Edwardians with Courtney Farrader, and we were both meh about it. We didn't think it was all that great, but this is a different one, and this is definitely about changing attitudes towards sex. So this is the sex category I put on as a prompt, and it's really big print and big margin. So this is maybe the one that I choose for that prompt. Okay, two more. Oh, we're past the hour. We're rounding into the home stretch here. So not likely to be my last one, Eminent Victorians. So, well, if you know the backstory of May of the Moderns, it's that Victober is so awesome, and I wanted to do something to follow up to that, to keep reading classics. This is about the Victorians, but it's written in the modern period. So that's why I thought it was an interesting link. And I don't know how to pronounce that. Lytton Strachey? Lytton Strachey? He was a famous dude because of his family and where he went to school and not much else. So his thoughts were valued is what I get the impression of. And he just chose 3 or 4 random people to profile, kind of like JFK did with Profiles in Courage. Maybe Carrie will call me out for, saying that wasn't the greatest book ever. But I read it in 7th grade and didn't get much out of it. So we'll see. This is definitely a back burner book, but it's on my shelf because I thought it was an interesting link between readathons. So put that out there for unread. Pile of possibilities. And finally, one that I should really want to read. It's The Death of the Heart by Elizabeth Bowen, but this edition isn't very attractive. It calls it a witty, lucid, and beautiful psychological novel. A scant half dozen figures. Okay, this is like a blousy review. It's a love story, basically. And so it's like the romance version in the 40s. And I've been told that this is really good. It just doesn't look like much, right? But maybe this is the book to end on and have a good high note. Love, romance, winning the day. Who knows? That sounds good to me, right? So that is, oh my goodness. Let's see. Those, oh man, you're just going to see all the mess. Those are the Too Tall stacks. And those are my unreads that I can't recommend yet, but they're on the Buddy Read sign up list. So if any of those look like something you're interested in, all you got to do is check out that Google spreadsheet and see if any of those speak to you. Put your name next to it. If someone already has their name next to it, then you add your name to the right of them and contact them and say, hey, let's read this together. Doesn't that sound fun? So yes, that's what we're trying to do, is have fun. I've got the buddy reads. I've got the prompt on Storygraph. I've got the reading sprints. In case you haven't watched the kickoff video, reading sprints are Friday after Shannon's productivity sprints and Saturday after Jenna's Soul Squad sprinters. So whenever those turn out to be, I think that's just like middle of the morning for Pacific time. Hopefully you can join us for reading sprints, which I haven't done yet. So that'll be something new. And then in June, when everyone's finished, I've sorted out all the prompts, we'll have a party to celebrate and have fun. And then we'll do the little giveaway thing and give out prizes for people who, did several prompts and we're trying for the prize, because effort deserves to be rewarded, right? So that is all I have for you today. Thank you for sticking around for so long, or coming back if you had to take a break and come back. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. I am trying to pull back on the number of videos that I do each week, and I keep wanting to participate. So this is my effort to pull back. This just makes it longer every time I come on. But yeah, so you will see me April. You'll see me for a few more videos this month, maybe a birthday themed something or other. And otherwise, get ready for May of the Moderns. I look forward to your TBR videos. If anyone is going to be participating, tag me in the comments. I will watch your videos and add them to the public playlist for the readathon so that everyone can come and check you out. So hopefully I'm lifting people up who want to participate and have those conversations about the themes and evolutions of themes in this time period so we can get the most out of it. So that's all I got for today. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.